This is an interesting couple of books on fasting that are part of my own formation at the moment. This book here explores the idea of Protestants returning to the ancient practices of the Orthodox faith, of the ancient faith. It's called the Ancient Faith, Ancient Practices series. The Protestant Reformation had such an emphasis on salvation by faith alone, and downplayed the idea that any work was necessary or important. And this eventually, it led to the dissolution of monasteries, interior prayer, the loss of fasting, the striving for sanctification was arguably ignored, the deeper ways of inner prayer, theosis. And so this unit looks at these things. So this is the introduction to this series. And we see here, for example, a book written on constant prayer, the Sabbath, fasting, the sacred meal, that would be the Eucharist, our divine liturgy, the liturgical year, and tithing. Practices that for many have just been, and some are, very orthodox, have been lost. This book here then on fasting is a good one. It explores the idea that we don't just pray with our heads, we pray with our hearts, we pray with our whole body. And we involve the body in prayer, partly with prostrations, etc. In the Orthodox tradition, we pray with our whole being, with our whole body, submitting it before the Lord in prostrations. It's not a Muslim thing. Its origins are deeply embedded in the ancient Semitic traditions and in Orthodoxy. Prostrations are a big part of being an Orthodox Christian. But not only that, the idea that the body is engaged in prayer when we fast. He's got a lot on the idea of the neglect of the body in Western Christianity, leading to a very overly intellectualized religion that neglected the heart and the body. And he just says these words, which I thought I'd include. Fasting is a choice not to eat for a designated period because some moment is considered so sacred that partaking in food would deface or profane the seriousness of the moment. There's so many beautiful examples of fasting in the Bible, and I'm going to do a video on the examples of fasting in the Bible and a Bible study on that. An evening with the Bible looking at biblical examples of fasting is very powerful. I did that the other night or the other day before I went to liturgy. Very powerful way to prepare myself. This is a book which actually got me interested in, with fresh eyes, of really looking into fasting. The author, this lady here, Dr. Francois Wilhelme de Toledo, is basically the granddaughter of a very famous chap they're all doctors, a family of doctors, and they came up with using fasting as a therapy, which of course had been done for centuries before, millennia before. But he kind of spent his life work and research on this, as has she. They have two clinics, one in Marbella and one in Germany somewhere. And they treat people with prolonged fasting, anywhere from a day, 3 days, 5, 7, 20, up to 40 days of fasting for people of all walks of life. But the good thing about this, I know it is in French. I believe there's a Spanish version. I don't think there's one in English. But this lady she has YouTube clips which can be found with subtitles on YouTube. If anyone's interested in that, I could provide the link. extremely good, showing the effects of fasting on the body, the physiological effects, and how fasting is not for superheroes, but for regular people. She looks at ways to engage in fasting and recipes for breaking the fast, for preparing for the fast. There's a whole section on fasting and cancer, which is very good. And she is Catholic. She is actually involved with a group of sisters, nuns, and she does her annual fasting with them. Sorry, I'm flicking through this, but and she just goes into detail, the physiological and scientific detail as well, and just shows those three elements which nobody will be unfamiliar with who's Christian, I'm sure, of these three weapons of spiritual warfare: to make alms, to give to charity, to look after others, to fast, and to pray. You know, it's not all about us, that we look out for others in the dynamism and freedom of the fast. And of course, we bring the fasting not just to lose calories, but to use it as wings to soar up to God in prayer. She has many quotes from people. There's a nice one here from Gandhi. Les yeux sont pour le monde extérieur ce que les gens is pour le monde intérieur. The eyes are for the exterior world what fasting is for the interior world. It provides new eyes to get to God. It's a highway to God when combined with prayer and humility. Well, I'm still working on this book, so I'll leave it there, but wonderful combination of science, modern insights on the nature of fasting, on how to fast, why to fast, and how to go about it, really.